He thought it was just another late-night taxi ride. A young man lost in thought stepped into a car expecting silence. But instead, he found himself face to face with a driver who was not what she seemed. Behind the wheel was a young woman. Her hands steady, her eyes carrying 1,000 untold stories. And on her lap, a 2-year-old girl slept peacefully, unaware that this ride was about to unravel the truth of a lifetime. Asterisk. The man adjusted himself in the back seat and asked the usual question. "You're the driver?" The woman simply nodded. "Yes," he hesitated. "Do you really think you can drive safely with a child in your lap?" She smiled faintly, the kind of smile born from struggle. "I've been driving for 2 years. And if you don't mind, you can hold her so I can." "Focus." Surprised, he agreed, and for the first time in his life, he cradled a stranger's child. The car pulled into motion, the city lights flashing by. After a few moments of silence, he asked softly, "May I ask, why do you drive this taxi, and who is the child?" Her voice trembled, but she answered with quiet strength. "She's my daughter. Her name is Sophia. I'm a single mother, and driving is the only way I can keep us both alive." The man looked at her in the rearview mirror, curiosity rising. "Where is her father?" The woman's jaw tightened. "She doesn't have one, at least not one who stayed. I am her mother and her father, her everything." Her name was Emma. At 19, she was a bright student in love with a boy named Johann. Young, reckless, and hopeful, she believed their love could conquer anything. But when she told him she was pregnant, everything shattered. At first, Johann stood by her side. He even accompanied her to the hospital when she fell sick. But when the doctor revealed the complications and the reality of responsibility, fear consumed him. He stopped answering calls. He stopped coming to school. One day, he was simply gone. Emma's health worsened. Unable to bear the weight alone, she confessed everything to her mother. Shocked and heartbroken, her parents confronted Johann's wealthy family. But Johann was the son of billionaires, a family that believed their name was too powerful to be tied to a girl like Emma. They refused marriage. They refused responsibility. They refused everything. Emma's parents, drowning in shame and societal pressure, made a decision that would change her life forever. They sent her away to America. "Live there. Raise the child quietly. We will support you financially so no one here knows." And for 3 months they did. Emma struggled, but she managed. Then Sophia was born. And the very day she needed her family the most, the financial support stopped. Calls went unanswered. Messages were ignored. She was abandoned, this time not by one man, but by everyone she once trusted. She was left with a newborn, no income, and no family. Days turned into nights of hunger, fear, and silent tears. She knocked on doors for work, but no one trusted a girl with a child in her arms. Until one kind soul, an older man, handed her the keys to an old taxi. "Feed your daughter," he said. From that day forward, Emma drove. Day after day, night after night. Sophia grew up in the back seat, the sound of engines replacing lullabies. For 2 years, Emma became the unseen warrior of the streets, fighting for survival. And tonight, fate had placed a passenger in her cab who was about to change everything. Car finally slowed in front of a massive mansion, glowing under chandeliers and guarded gates. Emma stared in disbelief. "This is your stop?" The man stepped out, but before paying, Sophia began to cry. Emma panicked, apologizing. "I need to warm her milk, just a moment." The man looked at her, then back at the mansion. Without hesitation, he said, "Bring her inside." She followed him through golden gates and marble halls, her daughter still in her arms. Servants rushed to greet him. "Welcome home, Sir William." Emma froze. This man wasn't just a passenger. He was William, the heir to one of the largest corporations in the country. The mansion doors closed behind them with a soft echo. In the kitchen, steam curled above a small pot of milk, and a billion-dollar silence stood between a young mother and the man who had just carried her child through marble hallways. He had servants, drivers, and every comfort a person could buy. Yet tonight, he had chosen a taxi. And tonight, fate had chosen Emma. William watched as Emma tested the milk on her wrist and lifted Sophia with a tenderness that made the whole room gentler. The servants waited for instructions, but William lifted a hand. "Give her privacy." Sophia drank slowly. The child's lashes fluttered with relief. Emma whispered, "Thank you." William asked, "Do you have anyone helping you?" Emma shook her head. "No one except the road." He weighed his words, careful and honest. "You are educated. You speak clearly. You think clearly. Come to my company tomorrow. I will find you a role." Emma did not smile. She held her dignity like a shield. "I do not want pity." "It is not pity," William said. "It is recognition." The next morning, Emma arrived at the company lobby with Sophia's small hand curled around her finger, a second hand toad on her shoulder, and a quiet resolve in her spine. The receptionist checked a list, eyes widening. "Miss Emma, Mr. William has arranged a temporary pass." An operations manager met her in a glass meeting room. Operator role. Call flow. Handling, client filings, accuracy, and calm under pressure. Emma listened, took notes, asked sharp questions. She had the mind of a student who had been forced to grow up, and the patience of a mother who had learned to wait without losing hope. By noon, she had solved a backlog issue that had bothered the team for a week. By evening, she had learned the internal tools and documented a process in clearer words than the company's manual. But William did not come to the office. Not that day, not the next day, not the next 4. On the 5th day, Emma walked to the floor manager. "Is William well?" The manager hesitated. "He is resting." Emma heard the word that people use when they are hiding another word. She found the courage that only worry can build and went to the address on the HR file from her onboarding. The house staff knew her face from that night. No one stopped her. She walked down a quiet corridor and found William in a dim room, light. Blue curtains drawn, a glass of untouched water on the nightstand, and a calendar with appointments crossed out. He tried to sit up and failed to hide the wince. "Emma," he said, surprised, "you should be at work." "I am," she answered softly. "This is also work." She opened the window. The air entered like a small mercy. She checked the water, the temperature, the medicine that lay unopened. She did not ask for permission to care. She simply cared. Emma began to run 2 schedules. By day, files and phones and processes. By evening, soft soups, gentle reminders, and quiet company. She would leave Sophia with a kind neighbor for 2 hours, then return to pick her up and come back again if William's fever rose. She learned the way his breath changed when the pain built. She learned the times when silence comforted more than conversation. She learned how to lift a man's spirit without touching his pride. One night, while checking his medications, Emma saw a folded set of test results on the dresser. The words were clinical, indifferent, and heavy. Oncology, biopsy staging. She did not gasp. She only placed a hand on the paper for a moment, as if steadying a ship in a storm. "Do you know now?" William asked from the bed, voice quiet. "I knew something was wrong," Emma replied. "Now I know its name." He looked away. "I did not want anyone to carry this with me." "You are not asking," she said. "I am choosing." The company board began to whisper. "He is distracted. He is weak. He is making sentimental decisions." The operations manager warned Emma, "People are watching you. They will say things if you stay this close to the boss." Emma answered with calm clarity, "Let them watch the work. The work will speak." Johann's shadow returned in another way. A competitor moved aggressively against William's firm, undercutting contracts, leaking rumors, circling like a predator that smells blood. Emma did not know the name yet, but the pressure reached the hallways. Deadlines tightened. Voices sharpened. The building felt colder. At home, Emma's nights were a choreography of survival. Bathe Sophia. Warm milk. Read a story. Place a blanket on a small sleeping form. And then return to the quiet room where William fought an invisible war. Sometimes he spoke of business. Sometimes he said nothing. Sometimes he asked about Sophia. What is she like? Stubborn about small things, Emma said, smiling, and gentle about big things. The oncologist laid out the options. We need surgery, then treatment. The schedule is tight. The recovery window is real. The side effects are real. William was silent. The room waited. He glanced at Emma, not as a boss, not as a patron, but as a man who had finally learned that vulnerability is not the opposite of strength. What do you think? Emma held his gaze. I think your life is more important than your fear. He nodded once. Book it. The surgery day arrived like a pale dawn. Emma signed a visitor form with a steady hand. She messaged the operations. Team a clear handover. She kissed the top of Sophia's head before leaving her with the neighbor and walked back to the hospital with a courage that looked like ordinary walking. The doors closed. Hours stretched. Coffee cooled. The fluorescent lights did what fluorescent lights always do. They made everyone look a little more human, a little more tired, a little more honest. The surgeon finally stepped out. We removed what we needed to remove. It was not easy, but it was successful. Emma exhaled a prayer without words. Recovery is not dramatic. Recovery is 1,000 quiet victories. A sip of water, a walk to the window, a night without fever, a laugh that does not end in a cough. Emma marked each one with a small note in her phone. She did not celebrate loudly. She recorded truth faithfully. In the office, her documented process stabilized a rocky client account. She trained 2 team members without telling anyone she was training them. When William returned in short intervals, he found less chaos than he had left. He also found a thank you card on his desk, signed by 3 junior staff who had been mentored by Emma after hours. One evening, while the city turned gold behind the glass, William said, "When I met you, I thought I was helping you. Perhaps I was wrong." Emma's answer was simple. Perhaps we met on the day both of us needed help. Sophia learned to run down the mansion's hallway without fear. The staff learned to smile when she did. The company learned that a hard season can be survived with discipline and dignity. And William learned that love sometimes enters a life disguised as responsibility. But shadows have long memories. The competitor moved closer. A name would soon surface. And Emma's past would walk through a door none of them expected. Recovery didn't come overnight. It came in pieces. First the slow steps down the hospital hallway. Then the morning when William asked for coffee instead of water. Then the evening he laughed so hard Sophia clapped her hands and shouted, "Again!" Each moment stitched itself into something fragile but beautiful, a new life being built from brokenness. The world outside still saw William as a billionaire, a titan of business. But behind closed doors, he was learning to measure life differently, by pages read to a child, by warm meals Emma insisted he eat, by the way her voice made the silence less heavy. One night, when Emma was gathering Sophia's toys in the corner of the living room, William said quietly, "Do you know why I offered you that job?" She smiled faintly without looking up. "Because you pitied me." "No," he said firmly. "Because the night you held your daughter in that kitchen, you looked stronger than anyone I had ever met." Emma froze for a moment, then met his eyes. It wasn't flattery. It was truth, spoken without perfume. Weeks turned into months. William returned to the office, but differently now. He delegated more. he listened more. He invited Emma to strategy meetings, not as a secretary, but as someone whose perspective cut through arrogance. She spoke carefully, never overstepping. But when she did speak, the room listened. Sophia became a quiet fixture in William's mansion. She learned to color on the back of used office papers, her giggles echoing against marble floors that had never known such sound. The servants stopped calling her the child and began calling her Miss Sophia. For Emma, trust was harder. Nights still carried the weight of abandonment. Sometimes she woke at 2 a.m. with Sophia curled against her chest in tears. She could not explain. She reminded herself, don't fall for comfort. Comfort disappears. But William was patient. He didn't demand trust. He built it, slowly, one act at a time. It was a rainy evening. The storm cracked the sky, and Emma sat with Sophia on the couch, humming softly. William came down the stairs, holding a small box in his hand, but his steps faltered. He wasn't the man who commanded boardrooms anymore. He was a man with trembling fingers. Emma, he said, voice unsteady, when you came into my life, I thought I was helping you. But you've saved me, from pride, from loneliness, from myself. She stared, confused, then saw the box. Her breath caught. He knelt not like a billionaire making a grand gesture, but like a man humbling himself before truth. I don't have the right words, but I know this. I want to share whatever life I have left with you. Emma, will you marry me? Sophia, too young to understand, clapped her little hands and shouted, yes. The sound broke the tension, and both adults laughed through tears. Emma's answer came not quickly, but with the weight of scars. I was abandoned once. I built walls to keep myself safe. But you've waited at those walls without forcing them down. That means more than anything. Yes, William, yes. The wedding was not a spectacle of wealth. William could have filled a cathedral, but instead he chose a garden. A quiet ceremony under open skies. A few friends, a few loyal employees, and one little girl who scattered flower petals with more joy than anyone present. When the vows were spoken, Emma's voice cracked. I promise to stand by you in health and in sickness. Because I already have. William's vow was simpler. I promise never to walk away, because I already almost did with myself. When they kissed, the applause wasn't just for love, it was for survival. Married life didn't erase pain. But it gave Emma something she had never had, safety. She woke in a home that didn't threaten to collapse. She walked into a company where her ideas were valued. She tucked Sophia in at night, knowing her daughter would not grow up unseen. William treated Sophia as his own. He never used the word stepdaughter. He said simply, my daughter. When Sophia fell and scraped her knee, it was William who ran for the bandage faster than Emma. When she learned her first new word, he filmed it twice because he couldn't stop replaying it. Emma, for the first time in years, began to breathe without counting the cost of every inhale. She began to smile without guilt. She began to hope, but life does not let us settle easily. Shadows of the past linger. Rumors in the business world grew sharper. A competitor was circling closer, more aggressive, more personal. One afternoon, William returned from a tense meeting and whispered to Emma, there's someone new pushing hard against us. A name I haven't heard in years, Johann. Emma's heart stopped. The room spun. The wall she had carefully built shook again. She whispered back, barely audible, he isn't new, he's my past. William and Emma finally find love and family, but Johann, Sophia's biological father, and William's business rival returns, setting the stage for betrayal, confrontation, and truth. The name hung in the air like a knife. Johann. For Emma, it wasn't just a sound. It was hospital hallways, unanswered phone calls, a young body breaking under loneliness. For William, it wasn't just a competitor. It was a predator circling his company, waiting for weakness. Two worlds collided in one name, and both carried scars. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She walked softly to Sophia's room and watched her daughter breathe. The child's chest rose and fell with innocence, unaware of the storm her existence was tied to. Emma whispered, "You'll never know what he did to us. I won't let you." William found her there, her hand on the crib. "You don't have to fight this alone anymore." Her eyes filled. "He abandoned me when I was 19. He abandoned her before she was even born. And now he walks back into our lives like nothing happened." William's jaw tightened. "Then we won't let him walk in, not without consequences." In the office, William did not show rage. He showed restraint, the kind that unnerves rivals more than anger. He called meetings, restructured contracts, tightened leaks. Behind the glass walls of the boardroom, his face was calm, but his silence was loaded with intent. Privately, he began to investigate Johann, not just his business, but his life. Bank records, alliances, weaknesses. He did not tell Emma every detail. He wanted to shield her, but Emma sensed something. At night, when he lingered too long at the study desk, she asked, "What are you planning?" He only replied, "Justice, but the kind that leaves no doubt." Despite William's strength, Emma's fears returned in waves. Grocery shopping felt heavier, as though eyes were on her. Picking Sophia from school, she scanned the street twice. One evening, she confessed, "I'm terrified he'll try to take her. Not because he loves her, because he wants to hurt me." William took her hands, steady and warm. "Sophia is my daughter as much as yours. No one will take her. Not him. Not anyone." The first encounter was unplanned. Or maybe it wasn't. Emma was leaving the company building with Sophia when a sleek car pulled up. The door opened. Johann stepped out, sharper, wealthier, his suit polished, his smile cruelly familiar. "Emma," he said smoothly, as if her name had been on his lips all these years. "Long time." Her body froze. Sophia clutched her leg. Emma whispered, "Stay behind me." Johann crouched slightly, peering at the child. "And this must be." Emma snapped, her voice trembling but strong. "Not yours, not anymore." William arrived at that exact moment. His presence was thunder in the silence. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He simply said, "Step away from my family." Johann smirked, brushing invisible dust from his sleeve. "Family? She was mine before she was yours." William's eyes narrowed. "No, she was abandoned by you. And when you leave something in the dirt, you don't get to claim it when someone else grows it into life." William knew confrontation in the street wasn't enough, so he planned a public reckoning. But not a fight of fists, a fight of truth. He organized a company gala, a celebration that would gather industry leaders, government officials, media. A night where reputations mattered more than profits. Quietly, he sent an invitation to Johann, and another to Emma's estranged parents. He didn't tell Emma yet, because he knew it would scare her. But in his heart, he believed the time had come for exposure. One evening, William handed Emma a small box with a necklace inside. "For the gala," he said. She frowned. "Why?" "Do I need to be there?" "Because truth must be seen to be believed," William answered. Her eyes widened as realization struck. "You invited him, didn't you?" "Yes." "And my parents?" "Yes." Her voice broke. "William, I don't want the past dragged into lights. I just want peace." He touched her cheek gently. "Peace doesn't come by hiding. It comes when shadows are forced into daylight." She wanted to protest. But deep down, she knew he was right. The days leading up to the gala were heavy. Emma found herself reliving her teenage years' hospital rooms, whispered arguments, the day her parents sent her away. But every time the memories threatened to drown her, William stood beside her like an anchor. "This time you won't stand alone." Sophia, too young to understand, sensed the heaviness. She hugged Emma's neck and whispered, Mama, don't cry. We're safe. The night before the gala, William and Emma stood on the balcony. The city lights stretched endlessly. William said quietly, "Tomorrow he will try to stand tall. But truth will cut deeper than wealth. Are you ready?" Emma took a deep breath. "I've been ready since the day he left me. But now, I'm not the girl he abandoned. I'm the woman who survived." They clasped hands. Tomorrow, the reckoning would begin. William quietly sets the stage for Johan's exposure. Emma fears, but agrees to face her past publicly. The gala looms, where past and present will collide under the brightest lights. Asterisk, the chandeliers blazed. Music drifted softly over clinking glasses. It looked like any other night of wealth, a gathering of the powerful congratulating themselves. But beneath the glitter, storms were waiting. For William, tonight was not about celebration. Tonight was about truth. The stage's Setema stood at the edge of the grand ballroom, her hand trembling around her clutch. She wore a simple dress William had chosen, elegant without being ostentatious. "I don't belong here," she whispered. William leaned close. "You belong more than any of them. Because you've earned every breath you take. They've only inherited theirs." Guests arrived in waves, CEOs, ministers, journalists. Cameras flashed. Then, with the subtle pause of tension in the air, Johan entered. His stride confident, his suit impeccable, his smirk sharp enough to cut glass. Whispers rippled. "That's Johan, the rising mogul." Emma's pulse raced. Her past walked into her present, carrying the arrogance she remembered too well. Moments later, another pair arrived, her parents. Older, faces lined with years of silence and regret. They avoided her eyes at first, ashamed, but William greeted them formally. "Thank you for coming." The room was complete. The players were all here. Johan made his way toward William, glass in hand. "Impressive event," he said smoothly. "But then again, you always needed the spotlight." William replied evenly, "Spotlights are useful. They reveal what hides in shadows." Their eyes locked. The words carried more than surface meaning. Emma kept close, Sophia in safe hands with a trusted nanny in a side room. She felt like the walls were pressing in, but William's presence steadied her. Emma's parents confront her near the refreshment table. Her mother finally spoke. "Emma, you look well." Emma's voice cracked. "Well? After sending me across an ocean to hide your shame?" Her father tried to defend. "We thought we were protecting the family." "You destroyed mine before it even began," Emma snapped. Tears glistened, but her voice was steel. "I raised Sophia alone because you chose your reputation over me." The parents fell silent, guilt carving their faces. Asterisk, a bell rang. The host announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's celebration of innovation and partnership. Please, Mr. William, a few words." William stepped onto the stage, tall, composed. Emma's heart thudded. She knew he wasn't going to give an ordinary speech. "Tonight," William began, "we gather to celebrate success. But true success is not built on profit alone. It is built on integrity, on courage, on the lives we touch." The crowd nodded politely. Johan raised an eyebrow, sensing the trap but unsure of its form. William's voice deepened. "We often forget that behind every empire are stories, some of loyalty, some of betrayal. I want to share one." He turned toward Emma, then back to the crowd. "Years ago, a young woman was abandoned. 19, carrying a child, cast aside by the man who promised love. Worse, her own family sent her away to preserve their image. She raised her daughter alone, in hunger, in hardship, driving a taxi to survive." The ballroom murmured. Journalists leaned forward, pens ready. "And that man," William continued, his eyes landing squarely on Johan, "is in this room tonight." Gasps, heads turned. Johan stiffened but tried to laugh. "This is ridiculous," William cut him. Off, voice thunderous now. You left her. You left your own child. And now you walk these halls pretending to be a leader? Leadership without responsibility is not power, it is cowardice. The room fell silent, stunned. Emma's parents lowered their heads, unable to meet her eyes. Emma's body shook, but William extended his hand from the stage. Slowly, she climbed up beside him. Her knees wobbled, but her voice carried. This man, she pointed to Johann, left me in a hospital bed, left me with silence, left me to bury my dreams so I could feed my child. And my parents, she turned to them, her voice breaking, sent me away like a curse. The room was still. Emma's tears fell, but her words were fire. But I survived. I became mother and father, protector and provider. And when the world thought I was invisible, one man saw me. He didn't save me, he reminded me I could save myself. And that is why I stand here today, not broken, but whole. Applause erupted soft at first, then thunderous. Johann tried to protest. This is slander. You have no proof. William raised a folder. Proof enough. Documents, letters, hospital records. Even your parents' denial back then. The truth does not need permission to be believed. Security, already alerted, stepped closer. The crowd buzzed. William delivered the final blow. You are not just a failed man, Johann. You are a danger to every partner who trusts you. And tonight, your mask ends here. The police, waiting. Quietly at the back, stepped forward. Johann's smirk shattered as cuffs closed around his wrists. Cameras flashed wildly. Headlines were already being written. Emma's parents fell to their knees in front of her. Her mother sobbed. We were wrong. We failed you. Please forgive us. Emma's voice trembled. I can forgive you. But I can't erase what happened. If you want redemption, it won't be through words. It will be through being there for Sophia, the granddaughter you abandoned with me. Her father whispered, broken, we will, we promise. William pulled Emma close. The room still buzzed, but in that moment it was only the two of them. It's over, he whispered. Emma nodded through tears. No, William, it's beginning. The life we were meant to live is finally beginning. The crowd, still on its feet, had witnessed not just a business triumph, but a human truth, that dignity is louder than wealth, and love stronger than abandonment. The gala ends with Johann's public disgrace, Emma's voice finally breaking free, and her parents' repentance. But one final part remains, the resolution, where healing and transformation come full circle. Asterisk, the night of the gala left echoes. Long after the lights dimmed. Headlines blazed, mogul exposed by forgotten past. Taxi driver's truth shakes business elite. But for Emma, William, and little Sophia, it wasn't about headlines. It was about finally breathing without fear. In the days that followed, Johann vanished into courts and scandals, his empire collapsing under the weight of truth. Emma's parents, once silent architects of her pain, began to knock on her door, not with excuses, but with small acts of repair, groceries on her porch, handwritten letters for Sophia. Long walks where words of regret turned into promises of presence. At first, Emma kept her guard. Years of wounds don't heal with weeks of apologies. But one evening, when Sophia climbed into her grandmother's lap and giggled as though she had always belonged there, Emma's heart softened. Pain didn't disappear, but forgiveness made space for something new. William embraced Sophia fully, not as an obligation, but as joy. Every night he read her a story, sometimes too dramatically, making her laugh until she fell asleep in Emma's arms. The servants no longer called her Miss Sophia. They called her the little boss. Emma, once a taxi driver surviving by grit, was now a woman leading with grace. She took on more responsibilities in William's company, not because he gave them, but because she earned them. Departments stabilized under her care. Employees trusted her because she listened with the heart of someone who had once been invisible. But Emma's true victory wasn't in status. It was in the mirror. For years, she had seen herself as the girl who was abandoned, the daughter who was cast away, the mother who carried shame. Now when she looked at her reflection, she saw resilience. She saw strength. She saw a woman who had turned wounds into wisdom. William, too, had changed. Illness had humbled him. Love had softened him. And Emma had taught him that leadership wasn't about power, it was about presence. The man who once measured life in contracts and profit margins now measured it in mornings with Sophia. Evenings with months later, Emma was invited to speak at a women's leadership forum. Standing on stage, she held the microphone with steady hands. The room was filled with faces, many of them strangers, but she spoke as if she were speaking to Sophia. I was 19 when I was left behind. I was a mother before I was ready, a worker before I was trained, a survivor when I only wanted to be loved. But life taught me this resilience is not about never breaking. It's about breaking and building again, stronger. Tonight, if you feel invisible, know this: your story matters. Even if no one claps, even if no one sees, keep standing. Because one day your voice will turn shadows into light. The audience rose to their feet. Tears streamed. Cameras clicked. But Emma's eyes searched for only two people: William standing tall, and Sophia clapping with both little hands. Together, Emma and William launched a foundation, not for wealth, but for women and children abandoned like she once was. They built community centers, funded scholarships, and created safe spaces where no one would be silenced by shame. On the door of the first center, painted in bold letters, were words Emma had whispered long ago: peace doesn't come by hiding. It comes when shadows are forced into daylight. On a quiet afternoon months later, Emma sat on the porch of their home. Sophia played in the yard, chasing butterflies. William joined her with 2 cups of tea. You ever think about that night? He asked softly. The taxi? She smiled. Every day. I got in your car thinking it was just another ride. I didn't know it was the road to my future. And I thought I was just hiring someone to help, William said. But you helped me more than you'll ever know. They sat in silence, watching Sophia laugh, the sound brighter than any chandelier, stronger than any headline. Life had tried to bury Emma with abandonment, poverty, and shame. But she rose, not just for herself, but for her daughter, her husband, her parents, and for everyone who would one day hear her story. Because in the end, victory wasn't in money, status, or revenge. Victory was in transformation, turning pain into power, loneliness into family, silence into a voice that could no longer be ignored. And so Emma, William, and Sophia found peace. A family forged not by perfection, but by resilience. A life not built on hiding scars, but on showing how scars can shine. If you believe in stories of resilience, love, and hope, subscribe and stay with us, because more powerful journeys are waiting to be told. Years passed. The house that once echoed with a child's laughter now echoed with determination. Sophia was no longer the little girl in her mother's lap. She was a woman now educated, disciplined, and shaped by the love of 2 parents who had turned pain into purpose. Sophia's rise, unlike William, Sophia did not inherit her future, she earned it. Emma and William agreed early. We will not hand her privilege without effort. She must walk her own road, so Sophia studied. She worked part-time. Jobs in college, even though her last name could have opened any door. She interned at the very bottom of William's company, answering phones, filing documents, shadowing supervisors. Employees whispered, "Why is the boss's daughter doing entry work?" But William only smiled. Because she will never learn to lead if she doesn't first learn to serve. Sophia carried Emma's fire. She remembered the story of how her mother drove a taxi with her in her arms, how society turned away but Emma never gave up. Every decision Sophia made carried that memory. She told her professors once, "I'm not afraid of failing. My mother failed and rebuilt. That is where strength comes from." She became known for bold ideas, but also for empathy, walking factory floors, listening to workers, valuing the smallest voices in the room. She wasn't just a businesswoman. She was a builder of trust. William's passing of the torch. As William aged, he called Sophia into his office one late evening. The room was quiet, filled with years of memories. He handed her a small leather notebook, the same one Emma had once carried to write reflections. "It's your turn now," he said softly. "I built this company with steel. Your mother rebuilt my soul with love. You must lead with both." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "I'll make you proud." "You already have," William whispered. When William finally stepped back, Sophia stepped forward. Shareholders doubted. Competitors mocked. "She's too young. She's just living off her parents." But within years, her strategies transformed the company. Greener technology, global outreach, social initiatives. One by one, her critics fell silent. Her name climbed Forbes not because she was a Reed, but because she was Sophia Emma Reed, the daughter of resilience. Sophia became a billionaire, but she didn't build golden walls. She built bridges. She created schools for underprivileged children, safe homes for single mothers, and programs that gave jobs to those forgotten by society. When asked in an interview why she invested so much into these causes, she said simply, "Because my mother once drove a taxi just to feed me. I will never let another child or mother feel that unseen." Reporters pressed further. "Do you plan to raise your children the same way? Private jets, wealth, privilege?" Sophia smiled firmly. "No, I will raise them to work, to fail, to rise. Love will be their inheritance, not laziness. Because love cannot be taken away." Her words spread like wildfire, quoted across headlines. She became not just a business leader, but a cultural voice, proof that generational wounds can turn into generational strength. Emma watched quietly from the sidelines. She had carried Sophia once in the back of a taxi. Now she watched her daughter carry the world on her shoulders with dignity. One evening, Emma whispered to William, "I thought my story ended when she was born. I didn't know it was only beginning." William squeezed her hand. "Because Sophia isn't just your daughter. She's your victory." And so, the story that began with a broken girl in a hospital bed ended with a woman leading millions. Emma's resilience became Sophia's foundation. William's guidance became Sophia's compass. But Sophia's future, her strength, her vision, her empire was entirely her own. Because the greatest legacy is not money. It is teaching the next generation how to stand when the world tries to break them. Final outro. From a taxi steering wheel to the boardrooms of billionaires. This story reminds us, pain can be inherited, but so can resilience. Love can turn abandonment into abundance. And sometimes, the child you carried becomes the leader who carries the world. If stories of resilience, transformation, and hope inspire you, subscribe and stay with us. More journeys like Emma's and Sophia's are waiting to be told.